Market chameleons and my favorite chameleon, Dimitri Pargamarnik. How you doing, Dima?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Good. All right, we're going to do live Q&A. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we'll do live Q&A today. Tomorrow, we're not going to have the show. Tomorrow, we're going to be skipping. I have to attend a personal matter, so no show tomorrow. But then after tomorrow, we'll start back up.
Personal matters do happen, my friend. They do.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the disclaimer real quick.
Yep. So good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealers. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to help answer your questions and provide you with guidance.
All right.
And
we're going to do a Q&A today, correct?
Yeah, so today, I think we'll just stick to the Q&A, just because I might have to cut a little bit short today because I have to leave earlier today, but we'll see. And then we'll come back. When I come back, we'll continue on with the new features that we added yesterday. So the idea is, any questions out there? You know, we get a lot of questions from customers. Could be about the tools, Market Chameleon tools. It could be about general trading experiences that you've seen, that you wanted to ask questions about. You know, there are two ways to do it. You can put it on the live chat. Will is monitoring that. He'll read them back to me. Or are you going to create that link to Zoom?
Yep, the link is, we already put it in the YouTube chat. The link to the Zoom is in the chat. So if you have any questions for D, just click on the link, come over to the Zoom meeting, and we'll let you in live. You can just turn off your video and just keep your mic on if you don't want to be on video. Do it any way you want, but we'll take you live. Just click that link.
Yeah, so you have to hit raise your hand. That signals to Will. Then he could turn on so we could hear the question, or any surrounding circumstances. Also, you could be, if there's something you're specifically looking at, you could guide us there. We'll take it there so everybody else sees it. I think that's kind of the best way to do it. So while we're waiting for those questions to queue up, I'm going to share my screen and we'll start taking a look at the pre-market report. If there are no questions coming in, I'm going to kind of default to some of the questions we've been getting in the last couple of days. So I'll start, with those questions unless we have somebody coming in live.
All right, great.
Yep. So today, this is the pre-market report. These are stocks trading in pre-market hours. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. I'm going to come down here, taking a look that 135 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 15 on a percentage decliners list. So you could see there, overwhelmingly, there's a more bullish bias at the open. Let's take a look at the higher market cap stocks to see if the situation is similar there. So I'm going to use this market cap filter, take a look at market cap 20 billion market cap or higher. So here, again, 36 made the percentage gainers list, 6 on a percentage decliners list. Not very huge list, but still 6-to-1 ratio in favor of more bullish bias at the open. I'm going to unfilter this really quickly. And there were a couple questions, that I got yesterday. And unless you have some coming in right now, I'm going to start off with those.
Yeah, start off with that.
Okay, so this question, it was from Mike. I wrote it down, and sometimes what he sees is what he thought might be counterintuitive is you see an increase in volume, an increase in open interest in the stock, but the implied volatility comes down. So the idea is, well, people are accumulating because the open interest is increasing, volume is increasing. The idea is people are increasing positions. So why is the implied volatility coming in, not going up, right? And that, what it's telling me, if you see it, and I don't think that's very unusual, is that a lot of times when a stock is increasing, right? So stock is increasing, we see open interest increasing, but the implied volatility might be going down because a lot of people buy right a stock, right? So you see that a lot of times, like say in SPY, as it's increasing, people are holding their positions, and some of them will choose to buy right or sell call options against their positions because they think that the stock has at least temporarily reached a good point for them, and they're willing to either, sell they're going to sell a call option to earn premium. They think that the stock's going to sit here, potentially go down a little bit, but it increased enough where they think if it goes up any higher, they might get called away. But a lot of times when you see people buy writing, right, that's creating pressure on premiums because people are selling premium. So the stock is increasing, and many times it's just a lot of offers sitting on the book. So people are putting out their limit orders in the calls, hoping to sell those calls as the price is increasing. But as dealers are accumulating more and more inventory, they're starting to lower the implied volatilities or lower the premium they're willing to pay. So it's an imbalance of more sellers than buyers of premium, right? And that's what's kind of happening, where we see implied volatility moving lower, even though volumes and open interest are increasing. Okay. And we could kind of see that also it was an interesting question because could also see something like that to the other side. Now, I would say that as stocks are increasing and implied vols are decreasing, that's probably almost what you're expected to see, right? That's kind of more normal than not, right? So one thing that might be an unusual thing to take a look at is, let's start in reverse. When a stock is decreasing and you're seeing high volumes, you're expecting the implied volatility to increase, right? Stock's going down, people are trying to buy protection, there's more uncertainty, you could get whipsawed. So you're expecting implied volatilities to increase. So here's a situation where it did, and this is a trade actually I did yesterday, but I'll show you something in Alibaba. So this stock was decreasing for a long time. It's been on a long downtrend. It's in the news, regulatory issues with China. But something interesting yesterday happened in it. The stock was going down. And I know the implied vols were very elevated, but you could see here the stock was going down, but the implied vols were not increasing. They're actually struggling even to break even. So you could see right around here all morning, they're struggling even to stay at the same levels. They kept dipping lower and lower, I was noticing, even though the stock was declining, which was indicating to me that's something unusual. That's the market potentially indicating that we've already reached maybe here a short-term bottom, right? That people are willing to sit on the offer, sell you as much, insurance as you want to the downside. The pressure now is on the premiums, which was indicating to me that I think that we'll reach maybe a temporary bottom. It doesn't have to be, but that was the indicator. And I also looked at a couple other things. I saw that there are a lot of big block trades going on, and it was kind of still behaving an unusual amount of big block trades, but I didn't see the stock falling out of bed. It was kind of holding there, and it looked to me stronger. Here, I'll show you kind of what I was looking at. And this was going to Mike's question. He's like, well, how do you tie stuff together? So this was from yesterday. Let me see, Alibaba. So you could see here in Alibaba, when I look at just big block trades, so I isolated, the non-block trades, and these are looking at just big block trades. And I saw that $2.6 billion worth of stocks was yesterday traded, and the stock was hanging in there and really started to float up. And that for Alibaba was a big amount. You'd think like that's enough to start creating volatility. I'll show you what I mean here. Here I'm in Alibaba, the price action. I know I'm floating around here a lot, but just to kind of show you what's going on. So this was the big block trades yesterday, August 23rd. So you could see as the stock was going down, we've seen some big volume trades happening, but yesterday was one of the biggest we've seen in the last 30 days. And it was on up volume, right? So this was, you see down volume yesterday. It was very strong, unusually strong on an up volume. And here I'm looking at it. This is yesterday's. So we see $2.5 billion worth of block trades traded hands. That's comparing to, 5-day average of 1.3, 30-day of 500 million. So to me, it seemed like almost like a capitulation there with the bigger institutions, a temporary one. That coupled with implied vols coming in and puts coming in as the stock's going down, kind of just said to the market was indicating something is different here, right? That like it's not happening in a panic way you usually see as you're falling down. Hopefully that's making sense, right? So now to the upside, I'll tell you in SPY, sometimes what you'll see is the market moving up slowly, but the implied volatility is moving up too. And that's another thing you usually don't see, right? So that could mean temporarily we're reaching, a high point where people are starting to say, hey, I'm going to start buying some protection here. I think we might sell off and take a look at how those block trades are trading. Are we seeing like big volume trades happening and it's not punching through? So a couple things there. I think that's kind of like what Mike's question was. He could come on the show, and see if I didn't answer correctly, but I think the question was, well, how do you tie in like, implied volatility, volume, open interest, like how do you tie it together to kind of get a sense of, well, what is the market signaling potentially? Because it's doing something out of the ordinary, right? Something you're not expected to see in that situation. Hopefully that was helpful. Mike, if you're watching, you're welcome to, if I didn't answer that question, could come on the show or give Will, let him know on that chat. Well, do you see
Awesome,
any?
D.
Yep.
No questions, but someone asked, are there any trade cards, any ideas in the trade cards showing up in Baba?
So here, let's take a look. And again, I only did this as a short-term trade. I really didn't, I'll see what's going on today, but just to even validate, sometimes I'll just do a small trade just to validate my thesis, and if I'm doing other stuff, I kind of put it in and then just go back to look if, my thesis might be correct. And I did this kind of as a short term just to see what happens today. And what I ended up doing in Alibaba was, as the stock was climbing, I sold a put. I think it was like a close to an at the money put, a little bit out of the money. That's all I did. But I sold like one contract, just to kind of monitor it and see what happens. As far as the trade ideas go, these are.
So that was yesterday you sold one put, and now.
So yesterday, right. So yesterday, based on the thesis, based on just what I described, I thought that in the short term, there's more pressure for Alibaba to go up from what I was seeing, and pressure on premiums that I'm seeing. I already knew we're already pretty high. The IV is pretty high. I'll take a look here.
Yeah, well, that was a question from Robert. He was asking, well, what was that? What was that giving you a thought on? What do you think was happening when you were seeing?
So I looked, right. So this is what I did. I looked at the implied vols, and I know we've been going down, and they've been kind of increasing, bouncing around, and then I saw that just lately it really popped. above 60. So there I was just kind of looking at the first indication of the implied volatility move ticking down, right? And then I was just looking at, well, how's it ticking down? Is it like across the board? Is it just one seller? And to me, it looked like it was across the board, that premiums were just starting to come in slightly. And again, and that was as the stock was going down. Then I started seeing very big block trades, trading hands, which you kind of want to see, right? You want to see maybe a capitulation on one side, somebody new taking a position, and what happens afterwards. So when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to look at it in the short term. That's what the signal is, that the market is stronger here. The implied volatility is high. There are sellers showing up now, more sellers than buyers. That's what the trend was. I looked at this where we could potentially come back down to, and then I just went into the options chain and started looking for puts to buy, and they're all already pretty jacked anywhere you look. I stayed in the short term. I think I looked at the August 27th puts. I forget which one I sold at the time. I believe it might have been, I have to take a look again at the position because I did a lot of trades, but it was either the 157.5 or 160 put that I sold. Again, I sold one contract just to monitor and see, to validate, my thesis. Okay. So that was the idea behind the trade.
Perfect.
And yeah, it didn't come though from the trade idea cards. It kind of just came from the other evaluation that I was doing.
All righty.
So if there are no questions, Will, I mean, I'm okay with, ending it a little bit early because I do have, I have to leave early today anyway, and I'm going to be out tomorrow. So if you don't have any questions.
Manny just typed in a question, and Manny is a new user or new Chameleon, just appeared today. Welcome, Manny. He's asking, when you say block trade, what average? I know our block trade screener pulls, I guess he's wondering how it shows up on the block trade. He's like, what is it? What average volume do you prefer? He's asking. But I'm wondering, I mean, maybe does it.
Right. So I think when, I'm going to just come here to Alibaba really quickly. And just, I'm looking at the average. I see that the block trades. So the block trades here, we define right now as, I think we could see here, 250,000. I think on the other screener, it's 200,000 we define. I have to check, but this is a new feature actually. So here you could set a minimum to the dollar amount per trade. So we start at 250,000, but you could look at, a million, block trades of $1 million, up to over 5 million, so this is over 5 million. But so what it does is it takes a look at historically how many of these on average, blocks for each symbol. It could be different, right? For Alibaba, it's different than like stock XYZ might have not, for a long time. So here I was looking in the last 30 days and I saw, look, on average in the last 30 days, about 500 million, almost $600 million worth of block trades trade a day, right? The volume, 3.1 million shares of block trades. And I see that it was increasing on the way down. We see last 5 days, it was 1.3 billion. So that's significant increase. And then yesterday, it was 2.05 billion. So I could just come down and look here, and that these highlighted ones are the biggest days of block trades in the last 30. And yesterday was by far the biggest, right? So the day we had the biggest volume and large volume trades, the stock looked strong to me, right? So that was telling me something. Like, it's not just falling out of bed and people selling, falling, selling, fall. It's kind of like the sell, there are sellers there aggressively, but there are just as many aggressive buyers, and it looked that the stock after this was floating up. Okay, so it's kind of like, because these were all, on the way down, there were already aggressive sellers. We see, tick up in block trades on the way down, and it continued to go down. Yesterday, it was by far looked like the biggest volume day. And to me, it looked like it was just holding there, it wasn't punching through. Does that help? But these were
good.
So these were the averages I was looking at. I was looking at the averages, and I kind of looked at the last 30 days, the path that it was taking. Right. So these were the VWAPs, this is the amount, and we see recently very big amounts. And then down here, on the biggest amount, biggest volume, that stock was holding. It was down, but it was holding, it was down on the day, but once this block trade started kicking in, it was kind of holding.
All right, Manny says thank you for that. Albert, he's been on a couple times and talked to us. He's saying there's a lot of chatter about, and again, unless you know someone's entire book, it's hard to say what this means, but he's saying there's chatter about $3.6 billion trade in future options. I'm assuming that was on the SPX, but who knows? And they believe it's Carl Icahn sold these puts, and they're asking, what would Dimitri's take on this be? Again, right. It's so cloudy. Who knows what that means?
You're building a puzzle, right? You're looking at other, and I didn't only look at Alibaba. I looked at other stocks other stocks that were getting impacted by the same news as Alibaba were also behaving the same way. So it was kind of like a sector. It looked to me like other stock like NetEase and these Chinese stocks, they're behaving the same way as Alibaba. And the reason why I did this because in Alibaba, I don't think it's a firm specific problem. I don't think this is, it's a systemic problem, right? It's everybody in China and these stocks are getting impacted by it, right? So it's not a firm specific problem. So I went with the one that I thought would be the best one out of that sector.
Yeah, sorry, you may have misunderstood Albert's question. He was moving away from the BABA, which was a really good analysis of something going on in BABA. He was saying he's read that yesterday there was a large future sale in the puts. I'm assuming
in which puts?
I'm assuming the SPX puts, but I have no idea.
Okay, S&P 500.
Yeah, the future puts, 3.6 billion was the notional, he's saying, and they believe it's Carl Icahn as the seller. So who knows what that means?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't read that, so I don't know. Yeah, send me the.
And again, it's the puzzle of the market, right? One person doesn't. I mean, if he sold 3.6 million, there were people who bought the other side, right? So it's
yeah, exactly. And look, when somebody sells, first of all, if you're doing it in the S&P 500, it's not possible to know that the market is going to go up or down or sit still. There's too many players, too many factors involved. You might be able to do your homework on a specific stock and kind of but in the market, in the S&P 500, it's almost impossible for any one player to know if we're going to go up, if we're going to go down. It's it's the entire market. So the other thing is, the selling also, maybe people are onto something, they usually you look for an unusual buy. The sell, I'm not sure if you know something, because how do you know nothing's going to happen in the market next? I don't know what he sold, 2 months out, 3 months out. How do you know nothing's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 months?
All I know now is Albert just gave us the 3,600 strike. So
okay, yeah. So
again, but we don't know what month or
who know. Yeah, you don't. Right, you don't. You don't know if it was a buy, I would be more curious. Why would he buy it? What does he see? A sell, at these levels, I'm not sure. But if it was a buy, I would be more curious to see, well, why did he buy? Like, remember Bill Ackman, when he bought it, he had a good logical reason. He's like, hey, look, this coronavirus, it's spreading. People are not paying attention. It's really bad in China, and it's not going to be contained. It's going to spill over. So he had a logical reason why he was buying a put. When he sold it, I mean, I don't know what would be, I don't know what we don't even know if he did it, right? We don't know who.
Yeah, well, we know someone with a big capability to sell a large notional value did it. So it's someone who is, super active in the market. But
right,
throw a dartboard at those pictures. It could be anyone.
right. Yeah. Again, look, I don't, when you're approaching it from the sell side, when you're selling stuff in S&P 500, I don't think anybody could say that nothing's going to happen, from now to expiration. It's almost impossible, because it's the market, anything could happen. So we're right up at 9:26. Will, any last?
I think that everyone's thankful we carried it further, D. Good job. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks everybody. We won't see you tomorrow, but the day after. Stay safe out there. Have a good trading day. Hope to see you guys.
We'll see you on Thursday, chameleons. Awesome job, D. Thanks so much.